In previous sections, I talked about weight as a really local, I mean, and rather it is a local attribute. I talked about local preference that is local to the whole AS, and now I'm going to talk about AS path. And what is AS path? AS path is a list of ASs that you need to go through to reach to a specific prefix. For example, if I want to reach to 100, 111, 0/24, I need to go through AS100, and this is the only AS that I need to go through to reach to that. If I needed to go, for example, AS100, and after that I needed to pass AS, for example, 212, and after that I needed to pass AS, for example, 300, this would be the list of ASs that I needed to go to reach to a specific prefix. You can see that to reach to 100, 100, 1100, I needed to get out of my AS, go to AS 300, and from that to 212, and at last I will reach to AS 100, that is the originator of the route. And you know that the originator of the prefix is the last AS listed in AS path. So the number of ASs, this is 1 AS, this is 2 AS, and now 3 AS. The number of ASs is important in selecting the best path. If you can go to the same prefix from another path, for example, we have prefix 100, 111, 0/24, and we can reach that using AS 154, and after that we are in AS 100. We can see that we only need to go through 2 ASs to reach to this prefix. So this has a shorter AS path than this one. This one has 3 ASs, this one has 2 ASs, and the shorter AS path is preferred over the longer AS path. Now, because my topology uses very limited number of routers, I cannot show you a large number of ASs, but I can show you how you can manipulate this on a router. Let's go to router 3 and remove the local preference value that we had added here. I go to peers, select ISP1, and remove this local preference filter. And if I do this after a moment, you can see that on router 1 again I will go through router 2 to reach to the destination. For example, for this. Now again, we'll go to router 3 and add another filter here. I am going to increase the AS path. Oh no, let's go to router 2. That's a better option because I want to change the path selection using AS path. And how can I do this? Instead of telling that I can directly reach to AS100, I want to tell other routers that if I want to go to reach to this prefix, I need to go through, for example, 4 ASs. So how can I do this? Let's go to router 2. On router 2, I go to routing filter and add a route filter here. What is the route filter name? It is going to be AS path, for example. Again, I am selecting all prefixes, so I do not add any prefix here. I go to BGP actions, and now you can see 2 different things here. One of them is set BGP prepend, and one of them is set BGP prepend path. If you select to have set BGP prepend, you can add a number, for example 3. Now you are telling router OS to prepend your own AS number 3 times to the path. I click on OK, and I go to routing BGP. But before applying this, I want to show you something. You can see that if I go to advertisement, I am advertising these routes to router 1, and all of them have only one AS listed in AS path, and that's AS 100. That means I can directly go to AS 100. But after applying this to my peers, that is my, for example, router 4, as an input filter, I select ACE path and click on apply and click on OK. It tells me error in update source. Let's go to update source and see if there's an error. It shows me unknown. I don't want to have update source set. Click on apply and make sure that ACE path is in filter. Click on OK. Now after a moment you can see that this is established again, but if I go to advertisement, now there is a change here. You can see that my AS number is prepended 3 times before reaching to AS 100. This means that to reach to this AS, I need to go through 4 different autonomous systems. So this AS is not preferred, although this is my own autonomous system. But you can see that it is listed here. It doesn't look at, it doesn't look at the number. It just counts the number of ASs. So let's go to router 1 and see if this is effective. If I go to router 1, I can see that all of those routes are withdrawn from my routing table. I only have routes that go through router 3 again. So this is working. But where are the other routes? I cannot see them. This is not important. Let's go to router 2 and do this in another way. If I go to routing filters and double click on this AS path, this time I want to show you something else. Set BGP prepend as 3. I just want to remove this, but instead of that I want to prepend my own AS. I want to have control on the AS number that I want to have here. For example, I want to have AS number 100 to be prepended to the AS number. Again, I want to have another 100 and I want to have another 100. You can see that I am prepending 100 3 times right now. I want to make it 4 times this time. Click on apply, click on OK. Now if I go to routing BGP and disable and enable this again, this way I make sure that this is working just fine. I can go to advertisement and this time you can see that I am prepending 100 4 times before the actual AS path. Now if I go to router 1, I can see that these routes are here. But again, the routes that go through router 3 is preferred. So the 2 approaches are okay for what I am going to achieve. But I prefer the second method. Instead of adding my own AS number, I prefer to add the last AS number that I have. For example, if I had AS number 300, 200, 12, and 100, I prefer to select the 300 and increase it several times. That would be a better approach, and this will be achieved by the way that I showed you right now. So if we have a weight attribute, that would be preferred over local attribute. If I have local preference attribute, it would be preferred over AS path attribute. So these are processed in order. I showed you 2 different approaches here. One of them is to select to have, let's go to router 2 and see this in routing filters. That's a better idea. I showed you 2 approaches here. One of them is to set BGP prepend, and this is the number of times that you want to add your own AS to BGP attributes. And you can have set BGP prepend and add the number that you want. But here I have selected to add a number, an AS number that is present in my network. This is the first thing, and that is directly connected to me. This is the second thing, and this is very important. You should be cautious about that. If you select another AS number, for example 200, that is too far from you and it is not on the way that the prefix is available, that will create a loop, or that will even create a black hole. That is not a good idea. Select an AS number that is in the list and select the best one that is either your AS number or a directly attached AS number. But as I told you, I prefer it this way. I prefer to add set BGP prepend, and this way I can manipulate the path selection easier and with more control without being worried about what I need to enter in these text boxes.